Hi, my name is Jeff Kish with Network Solutions. Today we're going to talk about the different types of cloud, including one that you may not have heard of. So let's go. Now when we talk about cloud types, we really usually talk about three different kinds: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. And so we're going to kind of walk through some of those, but I do want to start off with something that's a little bit more basic than all three of those, which is just your on-prem solution. So a lot of organizations, this is what we've been doing for 10, 20 years, right? We have an on-prem solution of some kind. We have some kind of switched environment to which we connect servers and storage, right? And so by connecting these up, we have our users somewhere off on the network, and they're coming in and they're accessing the resources and the data that is stored in the data center. So this is on-prem. This is nothing special. We're all aware of this. We have all at one point in time or another had to manage this or have just been around this type of environment. And so what has captured the attention of pretty much everybody in the industry is this concept of public cloud. And so public cloud is certainly one of these other types of infrastructures. And as the industry likes to say, there's no such thing as the cloud, it's just somebody else's computer. So what really we're talking about with a public cloud is somebody, and of course the big players are Amazon and Microsoft and Google, and there's a lot of regional cloud players and Rackspace. We've all heard of some of these entities out there. And so all they're doing is they're spinning up a bunch of servers and a bunch of storage. And of course, they're trying to keep it as cheap as possible. So they're really, a lot of these organizations are building their own servers. Amazon doesn't buy servers from Cisco or HP or Dell. They're building their own servers, white box servers, and again, to keep the cost as low as possible. And so there's just row after row of servers and storage out there. And so when we talk about this public cloud, we usually draw it as a cloud, but really what's happening is we're connecting to the servers and the storage that are out there. And so when we have a user, let's say, who needs to access a resource that exists in now the public cloud instead of the on-premise data center, they have to connect in via some kind of circuit, VPN circuit, MPLS, some form or another that lets them get there to that resource. There's one other big advantage to public clouds that often goes unnoticed, at least that we don't think about it when we're in the IT infrastructure space. And that is this idea that we can, as a developer, right, we put ourselves in the shoes of the developers, and we realize that something that they need to do a lot is spin up virtual machines and tear them down. And now the age of containers are kind of changing that a little bit, but even with containers, there still is often a need to spin up new services in a way that requires a new virtual machine. And so traditional organizations have to, hey, you got to pick up the phone, probably not literally pick up the phone, but enter a service ticket that gets you a virtual machine created. Problem with that is, and I get it, we all get it, right? If you have to wait on somebody else to do your job, you're usually going to look around and try to figure out what shortcuts you can take. And one of those shortcuts is, hey, Amazon lets me spin up a cloud whenever I want. I've got this awesome web portal, right? It's got, some kind of automation tool, front end, a web page usually, and my developers who are working in code on their code can spin up virtual machines that way and get what they need. This is about maybe not 10 years ago, maybe about 8 years ago. This is called shadow IT. And it's not that we don't have it today, it's just that it's less in the shadows and it's more in our faces. Developers are going out and spinning up thousands of dollars a month and spending it on Amazon and Azure and other resources that the rest of the IT department didn't even have visibility into. In fact, sometimes you'd have departments like HR and marketing going out and finding these IT type services and spending money. We called it shadow IT because, we had budgeted X amount of dollars this year and we actually spent 40% more than that. We just didn't realize it because it was being spent on technology in a way we didn't have visibility into. So this kind of automation is very beneficial. It was driving people to go around the IT department a number of years ago. Arguably it still does. But we need to recognize that that is a very important feature that developers like. And the reason we want to do that is because I want to talk about another type of cloud that y'all have heard of, which is a private cloud. Now, a lot of people, when they say private cloud, they're thinking of this, right? My on-premise solution. And I would argue that that's not the case. Okay, we are going to do the same types of things. We're going to deploy a switched infrastructure. We're going to have our servers and our storage. And again, our same users are going to access the resources that way. But what we want to deploy into this infrastructure is the same automation tool set that Amazon has. All right, so when we deploy this automation tool, it gives us that capability of letting the developers to spin up their own virtual machines in the same way they can do it with the Amazon or Azure cloud. But it also allows us to manage the infrastructure better. So when we're talking about scale out with a lot, we need to add new servers, we need to add new storage and things like that. Some of these tasks, you might not have to do that too often, but when you do, it is a monumental task. And so to be able to automate some of those feature sets really turns it into more of that scaling type of infrastructure. We don't, in a traditional model, have the capability of seamlessly spinning up new hardware and to migrate hardware. Virtualization has helped us out a lot with that, and that's great. But there are still things like moving to a new storage array and changing your server infrastructure that might require a maintenance window, for example. So some of that can be avoided by turning your on-premise solution into what we call truly a private cloud. Okay. Now, you've probably also heard of hybrid cloud, and hybrid cloud is really taking advantage of both of these models. We have public cloud resources and private cloud resources. The thing about cloud and just data centers in general is that every application is kind of its own entity. There are definitely applications that tie to each other, and we need our application servers to talk to our SQL servers and things like that. But when you capture the virtual machines that are tied to a specific application, you could really put that anywhere as long as it's accessible by your users. And so we do have a lot of clients who, for example, have some of their workloads in the public cloud, things like test dev virtual machines. The developers are actually using that engine since we don't have maybe our own automation engine in our on-premise equipment, or maybe we do have both, and we just go with whatever is cheapest, right? We spin up resources in the public cloud when those prices make sense, but if we can't get a good deal on a virtual machine, we'll just spin it up here, and we know that we can always make do with that. And so this is what you call the hybrid cloud. The hybrid cloud really does fit right in the middle of these two. And because it does, it really uses, you use both on a per application basis. That's what's key. It's not that somehow we've merged these two together. It's just application by application, I decide which one of these clouds I'm going to put it. So that's the hybrid cloud. Now, most people have heard about these three cloud entities. And the one that I want to talk to you about that maybe you haven't heard of before is a cloud model called private cloud as a service. Private cloud as a service, which we abbreviate, as we do with everything in this industry. So PC as a service is really this concept of trying to find middle ground between public cloud and private cloud. You say, well, wait a second. We just found middle ground. We've got the hybrid cloud. Well, that's kind of middle ground, but it's also kind of complicated. We have to worry about which application goes where, and we have to maintain a private cloud and a public cloud presence. And so there's a lot of ways where hybrid cloud, even though it is by and large the most popular model out there today, most organizations are not fully in the cloud, and most organizations have at least something in the cloud. So most organizations that I work with have a hybrid cloud go-to model. But at the same time, we have a lot of clients who are very interested in private cloud as a service. In fact, I'm hearing more and more clients be interested in this model. So what is it? Essentially what it is this. We have a cloud provider who has racks in a data center, usually nearby. This is a very popular regional play. And we're going to take that on-premise equipment that you have, that servers, the storage, the networking, everything that you've put on-premise, and that gets moved physically into somebody else's cloud space. Now, when we talk about cloud space, of course, we're usually talking about data center racks. So you have again, a data center somewhere regionally, maybe within a few hours, maybe 15 minutes down the road, depending on who you're with. And they have racks, and you're going to bring your equipment and put them in those racks. And they're going to manage it for you. So this becomes a managed service. Why would we go with this model? Well, because it gets us the benefits of the public cloud without the cost of the public cloud. You see, it's a very common misconception that the public cloud saves money. It does have a lot of financial benefits, such as operational expenditures, right? It's monthly spend instead of CapEx. That's a very big benefit. There's pay-as-you-go model, right? You don't have to worry about sizing this and that. There are some very good financial reasons to go to the cloud, but you'll never find on the list that it's cheaper. It's more expensive. And of course it's going to be more expensive because it's a service. And so what a lot of organizations are finding is that public cloud is too expensive for us. We're working with a lot of clients right now who say that the public cloud is too expensive. Can you help us either get out or get partially out, right? And so the problem is they love the services of the public cloud, right? It's really nice. I don't have to manage the hardware. I don't have to manage the software. I don't have to worry about failures. That's on them. That's on the Amazons and the Microsofts of the world to figure out. So I love that model, but I can't afford it. So what can I do? What we can do is position the on-premise equipment, maybe lease it to give you that OpEx spending model that CFOs love, and put it into a managed private cloud as a service. The cost is much lower than public cloud, and the benefits are just as good because you have the hardware managed. The PC as a service vendor is the one who's responsible for dealing with failures, for dealing with hardware upgrades and software upgrades. It delivers that value at a much more affordable price. And this is why the industry is starting to see more and more private cloud as a service type of ventures popping up. So, public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud as a service. You know, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do cloud. These are just some ways to look at these using these entities. Hopefully you've learned something today, and as always, we'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much.